This will soon be behind us, and we'll be off on a grand adventure. Because I have cleared my calendar for you. You and I are gonna tear shit up!
Far Cry 4 is the latest game in the Far Cry franchise, developed by Ubisoft and released for pretty much every single console, guaranteed to make them a quick buck. It's the latest in the Jungle Simulator series and has you take on the role of a man named Ajay, who is somehow more unlikable than Jason Brody. Ajay is returned to his birthland, Kyrat, to spread his mother's ashes. You're in the country for no longer than 5 minutes before the expectedly corrupt military starts executing people right in front of you, and your so-called uncle Pagan Min, now the king of Kyrat, shows up and swoops you away.
Awesome.
Min is actually a pretty charming guy, and the voice acting is great stuff. He's one of those bad guys you just can't help but like. It's a shame that just after the prologue, he just kind of disappears and isn't seen again until well into the campaign. Anyway, shortly after his introduction, you're rescued from his palace by the rebellion known as the Golden Path, and then you get let off your leash into Kyrat, tackling story and side missions as you reclaim the land from Min's royal army. The map is smaller than Far Cry 3 on the whole, I'd say, but there is a lot more to do in it overall, and a lot less empty space. As you complete story missions, you're also given the choice to choose between two entirely different objectives at times, given to you by two members of the Golden Path with vastly different beliefs, who fight amongst each other in the cutscenes like spoiled little brats.
We're in the middle of a fucking war. We don't have time for tourists.
These aren't really black or white decisions, and each choice has ramifications on how the ensuing missions will play out, with each character eventually ripping you a new one because you were a bit of a meanie head and didn't side with them. Far Cry 4 runs on their Junior engine, and it does look very gorgeous at times, as long as you're standing in one place. Driving around in vehicles or moving quickly in any given direction will make the game stutter like all hell, and the frame rate drops randomly all the time. I know, right? Big shock, a Ubisoft PC port with horrible optimization. However, when the frame rate does steady out, this is a superb looking game. The environments are photorealistic at times, and the general backdrop is very serene and appealing. This is a setting seldom seen in video games, and all of the ethnic and cultural stuff they've packed into the game world is very impressive. One of the game's new features, apart from the locale, is the karma system, which rewards you for killing animals humanely when hunting them, or just helping out the locals when they're under attack. You're also given a grappling hook to assist with climbing, as the map is now a lot more vertical. Aside from this, you know, some new vehicles and weapons, most of the features in this game are largely just copied and pasted from Far Cry 3. I mean, there's even a story mission where you're torching a drug farm with a flamethrower, except now it's opium instead of marijuana. And some missions take place entirely inside a drug-induced state. You still climb up radio towers for free weapons, you take over outposts to unlock fast travel stations, you level up and spend skill points, and you hunt down animals to craft new gear. Money is used to buy weapons and items from store, though money is in absolute abundance now, so you're quite often having to spend cash on things just to empty your wallet. Other things have been slightly modified as well. Health syringes, for instance, are now crafted automatically if you've got the resources, and the store interface has been tweaked a little bit, but mostly in a lot of ways it's more like Far Cry 3.5 than it is Far Cry 4. Now, that's not to say it's entirely a bad thing, though I am a bit miffed that most of what has been brought into the new game hasn't been refined or fixed up from the issues they previously had. Stealth, for instance, is still a bit of a mixed bag, and again, like the previous game, it just involves hiding in the bushes to avoid being detected. If a semicircle fills up, then you're spotted, and every jackass in the vicinity magically knows exactly where the hell you are. You can stand in the bushes and be spotted in a heartbeat, but as soon as you crouch, enemies can stand a few feet away from you, and they'll just be totally oblivious. Makes perfect sense. One of the biggest things that used to piss me off in Far Cry 3 was the way that if you ever missed a single shot with the bow or the silent sniper rifle, this was essentially the same as firing off a giant flare, lighting up like a Christmas tree. Enemies would all lose their shit and rush straight towards your position, somehow being able to deduce your location from the velocity of the shot or for God knows what reason. And this still exists in Far Cry 4, and it is annoying as shit. There was one point where I killed a dog from a good several hundred meters away, a dog mind you, with a silent sniper rifle, and yet after that I suddenly had a mortar being fired upon me, several hundred meters away right into the bush I was hiding at. Some of the forced stealth sections in the game are a frustrating mess of trial and error and will really test your patience. When you are detected or just in combat, enemies will just run right towards you, firing with perfect accuracy with shotguns, rifles, you name it. When you get injured is when you end up in this sort of never-ending cycle of watching the game's healing animations, you know, where you push bones back into joints or pull bullets out of your forearm with twigs. Then there's all the other minor irritations you'd expect to be ironed out in playtesting, like how your wingsuit will automatically activate if you jump off a ledge it deems too high, causing you to faceplant into the ground. You know, the way hostile animals would chase after you with a fucking arrow through their skull, and the way they always seem to pop up at the most inopportune time. And lastly, you know, problems with just basic navigation. I mean, would it have killed them to put some sort of indication on the map whether something is above or below you? And this is a huge underlying problem in practically every single Ubisoft game made in the last decade. You know, they love to cram in all these mini-games, little features and side objectives into their games, but they're so half-assed and poorly implemented that they're more of a nuisance than anything else. I mean, they're just so inconsistent in quality between each one, it's just like a lucky dip. There's probably a good dozen or so types of these side missions, and I'd rather they just halve that number and just made sure they're actually balanced and work the way they're fucking supposed to. Of course, you've also got all the other stuff thrown into the game world to artificially pad out the game's length, all the several hundred useless pieces of shit you have to run around collecting like some hopelessly obsessive compulsive asshole. That's not to say this game is bad. I mean, there's a whole lot of good stuff going on here. Flying around in the new gyrocopter thing is terrific fun. All of the weapons are modelled with incredible attention to detail, and they all look and sound magnificent. And you can ride goddamn elephants and ram right into people, but this is a game mired with technical issues, glitches, rehashed gameplay, and a lot of half-assed ideas, and it's honestly a 50-50 with the good and the bad. Ultimately, I always remember Far Cry games more for those moments when I'm running around a jungle, you know, killing guys from the shadows with a sniper rifle or a crossbow, before executing them up close with a submachine gun. All of the story crap that gets thrown in the middle is just the stuff I have to put up with before I can go off and kill things again. On that note, Far Cry 4 again fails to deliver any sort of meaningful or engaging storyline. At the start of the game, you're thrown into a war, you know, treason even against the king, on the premise of simply, hey, here's a gun, start killing people. And the two major characters you're involved with aren't particularly likable in the first place. I mean, why does this guy just agree to start going off and shooting soldiers off the word of a guy he's literally known for 5 seconds?
Shit, they know we're here. The door! Quickly!
And yes, there are a few homosexual characters in this game, but they didn't attend the Anthony Birch School of Video Game Writing, so it's all pretty tolerable in that regard. On the plus side, Pagan is a great villain and probably the best character in the game, only because he's the only person who has any semblance of a personality.
Boy, perhaps a little sugar on your shit sandwich?
Whatever, you've seen him. He's still breathing. Now go away, I've got work to do.
Fine, fine, fine.
I just don't know where I stand on this one, I've got to be honest. I'm at a sort of a love it or hate it impasse here. I mean, I spent a good 5 or 6 hours the first night I got the game just running around and hunting animals, taking over outposts and exploring Kyrat, and I had an absolute blast because it was Far Cry as I've always known and loved it. Then I moved back to the story mode and had to sit through a 5-minute long, unskippable cutscene of a man reciting Bible passages to me as an excuse for dialogue. And then it all finished up with some unpolished and glitchy mission objectives. You will ride elephants, you'll take drug trips, you'll see boobs, you'll blow shit up, yeah sure, but you'll also run into frustrating and cheap deaths, glitches, bugs, errors, and some truly horrible optimization issues. So lastly, if you think it's worth putting up with the bad to get the good, then Far Cry 4 is worth checking out.
I'm gonna see you around though, okay? Okay, let's roll, going Pat, homie! Woo!